All right, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Keep Your Torch Lit. Now joining his three favorite season 2 jury members. It's the one, the only, Nick. Welcome.
Oh,
Snaps.
thank you guys for having me.
Oh my
So good to
gosh.
have you back on.
Nick, is that the reunion cup you just drank out of?
Yes.
That's
With the
great.
logo and everything.
That's
Wait,
perfect.
does that have the Survivor logo? What?
Yeah.
I want one.
Is that the
You gotta
second
go to
reunion?
the events to get the merch. You know,
Get the swag. Wow.
I know.
swag.
Whoa.
Oh man, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It was a brutal watch. It did, just for everyone's reference, it did just happen like 10-15 minutes ago. So rough to see again, but I'm fine. That happened years ago. We've moved on. We live.
It's so trippy though, because I feel like I'm like watching you do a confessional right now. Because I was just watching you do confessionals.
Yeah.
It's like so weird.
It does feel weird too, because it's also like this was like years ago, and then when we were playing, that was also when season 2 was airing. So that was like in a weird way, it just keeps like being a recurring theme every couple of years. It's just something else from Survivor just like pops
Little
up.
as you know that right now we're all participating in All Stars 3, whatever, second chances. While we're watching ourselves play All Stars, playing this other one. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a few years from now you'll see that one.
Yeah, the one where Tom wins.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tom gets
spoilers.
Cut it out. Cut that
merged.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom hides in the bush for the entire pre-merge, and no one even knows he's in the game, and he just pops right out and makes it to the merge. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Wild stuff.
Wait, so are you in Chicago now?
Yeah, I moved to Chicago about a year and a half ago now. I'm working as a software engineer here, so I just I spend most of my time either doing work or hanging out with Bailey and Maggie. So,
Nice.
So you still hang out with Bailey?
Oh yeah,
Even after this episode?
Even after this, Bailey. My reaction to Bailey after this was just like, yeah, it was fair. It was like I had just blindsided her, and although like there's more we can get into, but although it's like although I was still trying to work with her, it is like I did lie to her, so I understand why she would be upset with me and flip. So I couldn't really harbor any bad feelings after this vote with anyone specific. So yeah, I made amends very quickly, I think.
Yeah. Except for me and you, though. We haven't talked in like years, honestly. It's that moment.
Me and Sam are completely ghosting each other.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward right now. I don't know.
Yeah, Ian was telling me like he was you were helping him storyboard, and you were just trying to take out all of my content completely.
Oh yeah, I was like, let's keep Nick. I was like, keep every single Nick confessional, get rid of it. You know, he doesn't have to be on the season.
Yeah. Can we just CGI Mallory's face onto Nick for All Stars?
But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things to discuss with your game, Nick, but one of the things was I feel like we were like very much on the same page for most of the game, and just kind of like near the end, like we were definitely just kind of weren't. But
yeah, well, I think this is like a pretty important point, and I don't think people outside really or in the audience really knows where I was in this game. But I was like, if you go back to the Jesse and Jackson vote where Kevin's explaining like the bears and the bees, essentially I was one of the people who was very well connected with like everyone. Like coming off of season 2 and being on production, I had connections with most people, or at least the bigger people. Like I was really close with you, Sam. I was close with Cooper. I was close with Bailey. I was really close. Like me and Bree are like best friends. Like, the only person I think I wasn't close to who had a lot of like other connections was Leia, which everyone else is close to.
You weren't on the list.
Yeah, on the list. She was on her list, but everyone who was on her list was also on my list. So it was like I came into this game with a lot of people I wanted to work with, and then it just like happened to be that like I slowly was like 2 or 3 on everyone's list, and I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I move on when I'm like 3rd on everyone's list? I'm not a target, but I also like kind of just have to hope they save me. Like, it was a very weird spot to be in.
If you had to make a list, like who would be your top 5 in order during that time?
During that time, it probably would have, well, it depends on when you ask, but when I got voted out, it probably would have been, it would have been Sarah. It probably would have been like Sarah, Andrew, Cooper, Bailey, and then I don't know who my 5th one would have been there. But like that's when I was voted out. But like at other points, if you asked me at the beginning of the game, it would have been. I don't think Sarah would have been at the top, but I really wanted to work with Sarah going into it. But it would have been like, it probably would have been Bree going into it, Sam, Cooper, and then like Sarah, Bailey after that.
Okay.
It was still like roughly the same, but it was, I definitely think I would have tried harder to work with Sam. Oh, and Aaron was also in the top 5.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Aaron's probably above Bailey and Sarah at that point at the beginning of the game.
No, interesting thing though, you mentioned Bailey's basically always on your list, like from the start of the game all the way up to when you're voted off. But Bailey seems to be like really worried in this episode, like I could get flipped on by Nick and Sarah, and like I think my name would be the name that like could be, voted off.
Yeah. I think me and Bailey just had a hard time working together because we think very differently in the game. And it was like, I think I'm just so strategic focused and she has more emotions that it was like, it's hard for me to like go to her with information because I don't know like what's going around or like how she'll react or what will happen. But if we go back to like the Jesse vote, and we honestly probably should delve into that in a bigger way, but it was like the Jesse vote specifically, I was actively like trying to not blindside Cooper and Bailey. Like I was actively pushing to make it like known to them, and things just like fell apart. But it was like up until that point, me and Bailey had been close. I didn't really want her as my number 1 because I knew she was emotional, but it was like we had all the same alliances essentially, so it made sense for us to work together. And I think we were still close at that point. So, I think no matter what, I was still trying to work with Bailey. And even after I blindsided her, I was like, I distinctly remember in my conversation, I was like, listen, I know we just didn't vote together right now, but like I also didn't vote with Mallory the entirety of season 2, but at the end we were still loyal to each other. Like
That's true.
I'm gonna vote Bailey. Like that wasn't gonna happen anytime soon. And I don't know how much truth there is into that. Like maybe I would have voted Bailey down the line, but at that point I was like, you're not even close to being on my like radar of going home. So like, don't worry about it.
And to be fair to Bailey, I don't think she really wanted to vote you out either. Like, I mean, like she did, but like she was pushing really hard for Sarah in that meeting,
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there was still that like residual connection there that, obviously she didn't want you to go home really.
Yeah.
But she did, but she didn't. But, there's a lot of emotions going on there.
Yeah.
No, Nick, actually something that like I think is really interesting that you just said is about how with Mallory, you're like, even though we didn't necessarily always vote together, like we still understand we were never going to vote for each other. And it seems like, maybe that's the thing where in like Bailey, I don't know if that's necessarily like Bailey was viewing the game that way. And like, I think that for me too, like I wasn't necessarily viewing the game that way either, but like, I didn't really understand. I don't think that Bailey, I can't speak for Bailey, but at least like me, I didn't really understand the concept of like, just because I'm voting like against you this round, or I'm voting against one of your allies, does not mean that I'm against you or will vote you specifically out. Like for me, I took like you pushing for Lucy to go home or voting off Lucy as like, oh, I guess Nick is against me. Bailey saw like, oh, he blindsided me, vote off Jesse. That means Nick's against me. And like, that's definitely, it doesn't seem to be how you were seeing it.
No, that was definitely not like, I think I think I might have just did like a poor job of like trying to get that across, because like all of my allies just were so interconnected. Like all of the people on the list, all the bears just had so many other people that I was like, I can't make a move without like hurting someone else's game, but I still want to work with everyone. So it was like I was just trying to pick off people on the outside so I can keep the people who were keeping me close. But like you said, we were really close until that Lucy thing, and I think you took it as me coming after Lucy or coming after you when I took out Lucy. But for me, it was just like, well, I don't really like. Who else am I supposed to go for here?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I can't really flip it on Leia. I guess I could have flipped it on Leia, and I did flip it on Jessie, but I couldn't like do both at the same time. So I was like, I have to sacrifice one to like do other things. So it was never for me. It was never against you, but I do remember afterwards you said something being like, "Oh yeah, like I didn't like that you blindsided me" or something like that in a text message. It was probably more subtle than that, but it was like
it's probably very passive aggressive, to be honest.
I definitely read it and was like, "Oh, this is like." Okay, gloves off. I guess me and Sam are against each other now. Because like I don't understand why Sam's mad at me, but he's clearly mad at me. So I guess it's free range to go out after Sam now. But like I think before that, I don't think your name would have come out my mouth at all. So
I mean, that was definitely bad gameplay on my part to, it's been much better, I think, in those instances to react how Cooper did, like after the Jessie vote, where he was like, and even like how we talked to Kevin, he's like, Kevin in this episode, he's like, yeah, Kevin, like you just tried to, like Kevin's like, hopefully you're not too pissed about me trying to vote you out. Cooper's like, you know what, like the game changes, you might be not on the same page one round, and I can't close off options. It's fine. I'll keep my options open. And I think that's a much better way to, well, I don't know if it's better, but it's probably better in general than like being like, oh, you went up for my ally. Like, okay, like fuck you for doing that. Because that's what I did. And it didn't really work out well. It wasn't a good move.
I mean, that's what I did in season 2. And then I played from the bottom the whole time. So I also don't know if it's the best move.
Well, and I wish that I would have been more open to you in season 2. We can just go back into that. I wish I would have worked with you at the end. So yeah.
I think that being open and flexible is it's a very good skill to have in Survivor, as long as like you're also like, I guess, able to pick a side. But it's definitely a balance.
Can be easier said than done, because I mean, I feel like that's kind of the theme of this episode is like the emotions versus strategy, and it can be hard to like shut down that emotional part of you and be like, you tried to screw me over, I want to screw you over now, and just like think about what's actually good for you. So yeah.
And I think specifically in this All Stars, being fluid is very important, because everyone's so connected that things are changing at any second. We literally saw Bailey create like 3 or 4 lines in a span of a week, and literally make one majority, flip on it, make another majority, then make a minor majority in the middle of it. So like, I think this game specifically, you have to kind of just roll with the punches. And I mean, like Sam's done it multiple times pre-merge. Like, it's just one of those games where you see something happen and you just hope for the best and stay with it.
Yeah. Speaking of the pre-merge, is there anything in the pre-merge that you want to dive deeper into before we get into this episode?
I don't. Well, it depends. There's a few things I feel like all of my votes were like heavily contested to go either way.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll start from the beginning. Let's start at the Emily Paddock vote, or I guess even. Is there anything you want to say about the Tom vote?
Not really. There's not much to say about the Tom vote. The Tom vote was sad because it was literally like Tom couldn't do much about it. There were definitely moments where I felt nervous. Like, I think I was the only person who was like, well, I guess Emily P also was thinking it, but I was like, oh, I might be in trouble next week. I don't think it was me specifically, but I was like, I won't have power probably. But I was like, bringing up saving Tom was just shut down instantly. There was no conversation of like truly being able to save him. So there's not much there.
I feel like I saw you say in the 4.5 recap, I think it was, where you're like, after hosting that and seeing what Tom did, like that shut down your like want to ever work with Tom.
Oh yeah, Exactly. There was never a point where I was like really hoping to work with Tom. There was like there was maybe a sliver of a minute where I was like, oh, maybe we should save Tom so that way next week we aren't just automatically like screwed. But it lasted literally a minute and then we couldn't do it, so it was just not happening.
And I just want to do a quick plug just for the 2.5 and the 4.5 recaps. Those were both really great. They're on the main Survivor Michigan YouTube. If anybody listening hasn't watched those yet, they're very fun and give you a little bit of intel on this season, I feel like.
Yeah,
they're really fun to watch. And Nick did a great job of explaining. And I don't know how you're able to remember and recall so many things about those, because I was listening. It was like I was on that and I don't remember anything.
It was a lot of scouring Skype messages like the hour before both of them. I was just like, yeah. But I guess if we go into the paddock vote, going into that week, I definitely thought it was going to be an easy vote, Andrew. I didn't realize going into the season that a lot of people were connected with him or had relationships, and I definitely didn't think that Cooper was close with him until roughly that week of realizing that they're like living next to each other and actively talking all the time. So I don't know. I really wanted that vote to be Andrew that week. But Emily saying Bailey's name right off the bat and it flipping and Cooper choosing to vote out Emily P. Yeah. It was just like, there was not enough that I could really do, especially because it was a span of 24 hours. We had 24 hours to do all of this. It flipped so many times. And like, you literally saw me trying to convince Cooper to vote out Andrew on his bench because it was like, I just got done with one conversation. I went to Cooper's bench. Then after Cooper's bench, it's like, I went to another room to go speak with Emily. And then from Emily, I like went home, called Sarah or something like that, and then like went to tribal. Like there was,
oh my gosh,
like the entire day, just all strategy, all day. It was ridiculous.
The scene on the bench is so funny. Where like Crouch comes in the middle of you two, and you're like when you're talking about like voting him off.
Your face during that is a top 5-star Michigan face, I think. Just
it was just the worst timing I could have imagined, but I think it actually did help because I probably would have pushed harder if Andrew didn't come there. But I think Andrew came, and then I like took a minute, and I was like, "Wait a minute, no, Cooper's really pushing back on this
right."
So maybe I just gotta shut up and like let it be. Yeah. But there was a moment where I considered tying it.
Oh,
because it would have been me, Emily, Sarah versus Bailey, Cooper, Andrew, 3-3.
Let's go to fucking Rocks.
Let's go to Rocks. Yeah. You know, Bailey and Cooper are never going to go to Rocks. So I could have definitely done it, but I think at that point it would have just made me look like a lunatic if I was trying to do that.
It is. Yeah, I mean, do you think you'd be able to recover relationships with Cooper and Bailey after like forcing that tie and like kind of getting them to flip?
No, I think that was the main thing, is that those two were so high on my list of allies that I think if I would have done that to them, they would have just both been really pissed off with me. Like I don't think they would have like said it outright, and I would have tried to work with them probably, but I think later on they would have just been like, no, we got to cut him after everything he's done. Like they would have been looking for ways out immediately.
What if you go to them before tribal and say like, I am voting with Emily and Sarah, like, I don't want it to go to tie. Like, there are going to be 3 votes on Andrew. Like, you know, if you guys want to go to Rocks, you can't. Like, you know, you don't blindside them, but you kind of like strong arm them. You think that
it crossed my mind. Bailey's not a person you strong arm.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Someone who will fight back and be pissed about it. So
it would probably not go over well.
Cooper might just like roll his eyes and be like, whatever, I guess we're doing that. But Bailey would be upset for years to come if I did that.
Yeah. Another question is, so it kind of seems like by what you're saying, you weren't really that fazed by, like, I know Emily got kind of thrown under the bus by Tom the previous vote.
Yeah.
And it seems like Cooper like definitely trusts her less after that, but did that impact your trust at all, or did you not even really believe that it was her, or like what did you think about it?
Yeah, I don't think I believed it was her. I just thought, I was just like, it's stupid. And like, also, even if it was her, like, it makes sense. She's close to Tom, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But like for me, watching it, I never even realized how big of a deal it was. I just thought Cooper like had picked Bailey over Emily at some point, and I'd never like watching it back. I was like, oh, that's the real reason. I was like, I didn't know that. I was just like, for me, when I heard that information, I was like, okay, Tom's being wild. And then I was like, that's it. I thought that was the end of the conversation, but I guess it was like a big deal for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
At least for Cooper and Bailey, probably. I don't know. At least from the edit, it seems that way. I'm not sure about anyone else, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it didn't really factor in for you at all. Probably, I mean, not for Sarah at all. I'm sure too. Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, that was also the same thing when like Bailey was still mad at Sarah for writing her name down. Like, I think Bailey held that grudge for a long time. But for me, it was just like, well, of course, like Sarah's going to immediately side with Emily. Like, who else? Yeah. Whose name would she have been able to throw out? Like, I don't know what Bailey was really expecting there, but I remember Bailey being really upset about it. But for me, I was just like, yeah, there was no other options for them.
I mean, it seems almost like going all the way up until this episode, like Bailey's still kind of like, she's always like had like a thing against Sarah, you know? She never really got over it.
I do know that she was mad. Anyone who writes or crosses Bailey, it's going to be a grudge for a while.
Oh yeah, she's sassy.
Bailey also does get over it sometimes. I mean, Bailey and Maggie, like great friends right now.
I know. I love that friendship.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think she needs to get over it with you, like outside of the game. You know, it takes a while. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what was the next tribal? The next tribal for you was the Aaron tribal, right?
Yes, that was the next tribal. That one was definitely a hard tribal, I think. I think I remember spending most of the week like delving into just like analyzing it all week. But it was like very interesting because, like I said before, Aaron was really high on my list coming into the game. I actually think I might have misspoke earlier, but I do think I probably would have like if I started on Pawnee instead of Odawa, I think I probably would have sided with Aaron before I would have sided with Sam. But by the time that Aaron vote was happening, I think Sam's the only person I'm really cross-tribe talking to. And so at that point, I feel genuinely really close with Sam. And so at that tribal, I remember being like, no matter, like, I think it showed the conversation, but I remember going into it being like, Sam, even if I like don't vote with you, like I'm making sure you're safe. Like, you have nothing to worry about this week because there's no way the votes are going to land on you. I was like, there's no chance that's happening. But yeah, I don't know. That vote, I think there are opinions both ways. Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys think the Aaron vote was a good move, or do you think I should have probably taken out one of Sam's trio?
It's hard because how easy would it have been to swing everyone else to do that? Because like that's the thing, you don't want to piss off like a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
But if you could have, I think it would have been better to take out one of Sam's trio.
Like Lucy or or Adam.
Either. I say either. Adam is probably like a bigger. Actually, I don't know. Because like Lucy also has their girls' alliance.
It did seem like at that episode, Aaron and Jackson were really pushing for Lucy to go home because they were saying like, okay, Lucy's probably the least likely person to have an idol played. So I can see how like that week you didn't vote off Lucy, but then like you did target Lucy the next week. So it seemed kind of like you're taking shots from different groups, trying to like make sure no one group got too powerful. So to me, it makes sense. It's hard. I'm definitely trying to look at it objectively because objectively this move definitely benefited me.
Yeah.
Looking at it objectively, obviously like the Aaron Jackson, whatever Kevin Megan alliance maybe wasn't as real as people have been saying, but at the same time, like Aaron's also a big threat, very connected player. it made sense that you went after Lucy, the next tribal council. So like, I don't know. My opinion is that it seems kind of like you got the best of both in a way, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way, because that's what I'm saying is it is very like controversial in the sense that like Erin's a super loyal player, and
Yeah.
I don't. I think I remember her talking on this, and I don't know if she fully even knows like all the reasons why she ended up going that week. But it's like I think going into that week, I was starting to get fed up with like people just kind of like having me third on their list, and I was like, how do I move up, or how do I make sure that it's not like I just hope for the best? How do I like actively map the game out to survive?
Right.
And going into that week, I love Erin, but I don't think I recognized one how loyal she would be to me, because Cooper was her number one, and I'm sitting here trying to work with Cooper, and I need to go up on his list. And I know if Erin's in the game, I know Erin's always going to be above me, and I know Cooper's always going to be above me in her list as well. And sticking with them would also like get like Jack, or not Jack and Kevin potentially on their side. And I was just like, that's just gonna like push me down lower and lower. And here I am going to just kind of get like replaced by that.
Yeah.
So my goal that week was really to just like get myself in a better position. And I think I don't know if it's a mistake fully, because as you guys saw, Bailey did have an 8 and then like didn't. So I don't know fully how it would have played out if Erin stays.
Yeah.
But it could go either way. But I do think my goal that week was to like make sure Cooper doesn't have numbers going, or as many numbers going forward, and he needs me. And also keeping your guys' trio, I thought would last longer. I didn't think we were going to like be splitting tribes or so I thought you guys would be a huge threat going forward, and that like if all three of you guys are in there, like no one's gonna let you Sam and Adam just skate by with 3 votes. So I was like, well,
that's a good point. Yeah.
I was just like, well, I get higher on Cooper's list, and there's a huge target that stays in the game. So like maybe like I'll stay safe a few more weeks and be able to like bide my time to get like the bigger people to go after each other.
No, that's honestly true. I feel like Erin would have been a big threat if she had stayed, just because her like alliances were like, some of them were a lot more like under the radar. I feel like with her, it was like kind of harder to tell.
Yeah.
But I thought like what you were saying about being high on people's list, I thought it was interesting how like Bree said kind of the same thing in one of her confessionals, how she felt like last season, like in season 2, she didn't feel like she was really at the top of anyone's list. So she was like trying to change that this time around.
Yeah.
Which I think it is a really important thing to like be aware of when you're playing Survivor, because like as soon as you're like falling down everyone's list, like you're disposable. So like you really want to be at the top of like people's list, like as many as possible. So I do think that's a good strategy.
Yeah. And I was really nervous about it. I think that was just on my mind constantly, because it was like I do think there's a world I could potentially go really far and just like stick with my friends and like do the status quo and just kind of sit there. And I think I would genuinely go far, but I don't know like what happens if later in the game, like it just felt like at some point Leia, who I'm not close with, is going to be close with these people, and I'm just going to be disposable. Like you said. Do I wait and hope that I'm not disposable, or do I try to do something and mix it up a little bit? But mixing it up also pisses off all of my allies. So like what is the move there? And I think every single vote I went into felt like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's something more like just to be said about this while we're just thinking of lists of just like, I feel like if you would have in this like instance, like even just like waffled back to Erin, like let Erin ever know like everything that was happening, and then like save her at like the last second, like I feel like you would have skyrocketed up her list, like because of how loyal of a player she is, like we've been talking about. Like that might have been kind of overthinking it, because you'd have to maybe like let her know how much you saved her, and then that just kind of pisses off a lot of people, and going back and forth, I don't know if that even be possible, but I feel like Erin at this point is like pretty in search of allies. Like I feel like that it could have been, I don't know, it would have been interesting to see if
Yeah.
like all of a sudden she would just be like super super loyal to you, if that could have changed things. I don't,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I know. Well, that's I always go back and forth. Like I feel like every single move in this game that I made, like I could see both outcomes that I
100%,
did and
yeah.
didn't do. Help
Yeah.
and
Right.
hurt. And in this
Mhm.
one, I definitely see like maybe if I keep Aaron, it's harder for Cooper to flip because Aaron's going to fight for me. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
maybe that would have happened and I would have been safe in the future there. So
Mm.
I don't know. It's hard to really fully understand, but I rolled the dice thinking that Sam's trio would be a huge threat. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it fully worked.
Well, I mean, if we had gone to tribal again as that group, which would have been me, Lucy, Adam, you, Sarah, Bree, and Jackson. Do you
Yeah.
think that you would have like flipped to the other side and worked with Jackson?
Yes, 100%. The whole Jackson idol play was a plan. And I don't know if it was me or Sarah who came up with it, but we definitely talked about it. This was something we like spread with everyone to kind of warn people. But it was like we wanted to keep Jackson on our side, but also knew he had an idol. And so Sam was like trying to get him out. And we were like, okay, or trying to make sure that the idol was out. I know your guys'
Mhm.
side didn't want to like risk the idol being there another week. And so
Yeah.
we were like, how do we keep Jackson, get rid of Aaron, but also like keep everything looking nice? And so our plan was just to tell Jackson right before the vote and be like, hey, you have to use your idol. So then he stays, Aaron leaves. And then the next week, if we go to tribal again, us four, me, Bree, Sarah, and Jackson can vote out one of you guys.
I think that, I mean, y'all were set up like very well for that. Like that was
Mhm.
pretty much pulled off every single aspect of that move flawlessly.
Yeah. And then we split up.
Just
Yeah.
randomly like
And then
another
production
swap.
said no. Yeah.
Second
Yeah.
swap. It's kind of hard to plan for that.
Mhm.
But I also think it's interesting if I think there's a chance that I would have told you, Sam, what was going on if we
Yeah.
didn't stick with Aaron. And I might not have told you exactly who we were voting, but I probably would have been like, hey, like I'm not voting with you. Because I wouldn't have wanted to blindside you in that vote. So
Yeah.
and you probably would have told Adam, and Adam uses the idol on himself or uses it on Lucy maybe. So
Most
like
likely.
it probably would have gotten really messy if I did go the other way.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I think that Adam probably would have played the idol for himself because in that instance, like, how can you not?
Yeah.
There could have been an instance in which Lucy goes home and the idol is like flushed, and
That's
Yeah.
that would have been
Two
tough
idols
for
played,
us.
and yeah.
But yeah, it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
All that being said, I feel like it makes sense that kind of how in that episode you kind of put all these, you kind of like make I really like that scene where you had the like piece of paper with all the alliances. Like I feel like it really like helped to conceptualize like where everybody is, and the groups you made were the Pawnee trio, the Odawa people, the Sangria girls, the Axis of Evil, then like you and Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was super helpful for
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Because I think someone else, like I think Sarah also tried to make one, but hers wasn't as accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Hers
I feel
was
like
the
that.
continuum, and then mine
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
these are like
Yeah.
Groups.
and those are the groups. And I do think I was pretty like spot on about the groups. Like
I
Yeah.
mean,
was
that's
just-
like your thing. Like I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
a story
that's
of
your
Nick
thing.
in Survivor.
Mhm.
Professor Nick.
Like you're always like the most perceptive one
Until the very last
until
second.
the freaking if only you played your idol.
Yeah.
Then
Do we want to
then
jump
this
to
would
that?
be Sam's
I don't know.
interview. It would be Sam's
know.
It
interview.
would be Sam's interview.
Yeah.
Would be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to just jump to that? I mean, we can still talk about, I don't know.
When we can, there's the
Well,
only
what
other
other
thing
tribal
is
are we missing? Jesse?
Jesse.
the
Yeah.
Jesse one,
Oh.
Hmm.
which was
I
like
mean-
it's also very related to this one too. I mean,
Mhm.
it feels like it's
Yeah.
they're very tied together.
Yeah. Well, which one would we like to talk about? I think we could go either way.
It's your interview.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just talk about the Jesse vote in general, just to get it over with. But the Jesse vote was, like I said, something that for years afterwards, I think I regretted until I watched it back. Like
Mm.
once I watched it back, I realized like how much Cooper was trying to like blindside me, and I was like, oh, so I blindsided him and it was fine. And then I also realized that like Bailey, even though she stopped the blindside because I said no, was still out there telling Andrew like to keep doing it. So like nowadays I look at it and I'm like so upset about it. But it was like a wild vote. Like I went into it really not wanting to do it because I didn't want to screw anyone over. But at the same time, it made very little sense for me to just like let Jackson go there. Like all of my allies, for the most part, were Odawa. So why would I take out, or why would I leave Leia's allies in there when Leia's group is the one that's threatening me the most? Right. So like that's kind of where I was at with it. And the issue is, how do you do that without when Bailey and Cooper are like tied to Leia and Jesse?
Right.
There was no way to do it. And so I think when the plan comes together, it's happening like hours before tribal. Andrew was like busy that weekend. I think he was out of town, and he like came back the last day ready for tribal and started like just making up scenarios with Sarah. And then they both tried to rope me in, and it was nuts. It was our weird ass blindside plan where all three of us had to be voting Jesse or had to be voting Jackson for it to work. Like all three of us had to have gone in the Jackson direction in the
and like sat in the same like couch like at the meeting and like
yeah.
And so I went into that being like, oh, there's really no chance it's going to happen. Like I agreed to it, but like realistically, how will this work? Because all three of us have to be voting the same way, and they're crazy to let us do that. So like very unlikely it's going to happen. And then afterwards we plan to, I think Sarah was driving, and we plan to go up with Cooper and Bailey and me, Andrew, like all of the Odawa people were supposed to drive to tribal together. And on that drive, if we were blinds or if we were taking out Jesse, we were supposed to tell Jesse or tell Cooper and Bailey. So like they were supposed to know before. And that was it was supposed to be like they're supposed to know like the 5 minutes before, which is still not good, but it was going to be
going to be a blind side.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what finally like let me agree to it. It's that I was like, okay, if it happens, we tell them right before and see what happens. Like, and if we don't get on the same page, if like we're all not voting Jackson at that point, like it can't even happen, so we won't even mention it to them. And so I was like, fine, that works. We get there, and I don't know if this is true or not. Ian has said he doesn't think this is what happened, but I believe Andrew was supposed to vote out Lucy that week. Like we went around in the circle, and I think Andrew was told to vote Lucy. And then when everyone was like, okay, like split up and go to your sides, I'm pretty sure Andrew went to the Jackson side and was just like lied about it and was like, no, like, they told me to vote Jackson. I think there's a clip of like Jesse going, oh, I thought I was supposed to vote Jackson. And then she just like concedes and like,
that's funny.
Lucy. So I was like, whoa, Andrew just pulled that move off, which was wild. So now we're all voting Jackson. And then I'm like, okay, well, we're about to have a weird, messy conversation in the car ride up. But Bailey brings her boyfriend to that.
Freaking Noah.
Yeah. I think Noah's recording it at some point. So Bailey brings her boyfriend. And then as we're getting in the car, Noah starts like getting in with us because Bailey's like obviously bringing her boyfriend and she has no idea we have this plan or whatever. And so Cooper's like, oh, I'll just like go with Leia then, and like went into a different car.
So Noah did it again.
Yeah, wow. Noah, I don't think knew this was the plan. Yeah, I don't think he had any idea. But it then ends up being a car with me, Sarah, Andrew, Bailey, and Noah.
And Abby for some reason.
He said and Abby.
Oh yeah, and Abby. Yeah. But yeah, so like then I'm sitting in this car and I'm like, we should still tell them, but what am I supposed to do? Andrew and Sarah are sitting there like, yeah, you guys like so excited, like just like winking, nodding at me. Like you can just tell they're so excited to blindside Bailey. Bailey has no idea what's going on. And there's no Cooper to like calm Bailey down. And Bailey tell Bailey she's going to flip out. So like I needed someone else to like sit there. But if I said anything in that car ride, everyone would have been mad at me. Bailey would have been mad. The other two would have been mad that I like blindsided it, or like
you were in the blind
messed
side.
up the blind side. So then I just go to tribal. I'm like, screw it. I guess I have already committed to this. If I don't move my vote there, then I'm just screwing everything up. Like, what am I supposed to do? And one thing led to another, and Jesse leaves. But I thought going into that vote, I had like several fail safes to make sure like I wasn't screwing people over, and then I ended up screwing so many people over.
Oh my gosh, I feel like the car rides like are actually so important in College Survivor. Like who you carpool with at certain times, like
100%.
It's like a big thing.
Huge,
it's pretty crazy.
huge.
But no, I mean it makes sense like that. I mean, Bailey was trying to target Sarah, who's like very much like basically your number one or one of your closest allies. But then like taking out, I can see how you're like, well, Jesse is not Bailey's number one person. So it's maybe 3, 4, 5 on the list.
That's true.
Yeah.
At that point. So like I can see how it's like, it seems like fair game at that point, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're not voting off Bailey, but like, you know, Bailey also has a different view where she sees like if I'm blindsided, that's a move against me.
Yeah.
So just like it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think I went into it knowing that like I went into it for sure knowing that I didn't want to blindside them.
Yeah,
I knew it would go bad, but it was just like at some point with all that mishap happening, I was just like, I guess like I have to.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if I tell Bailey even right before, like she
probably doesn't change.
No, she probably flips out. She's still mad. She's still upset. She might even do something at tribal.
Yeah.
I've talked with her after. She said she'd probably want to have done it and would have been more okay with it. I just don't know if that's true. Because like, even after the whole blind side, she literally sat and was like crying and puking and like just a mess like afterwards. So I don't think it would have gone well even if we told her before. So
yeah,
it was just like a rock and a hard place. And it was like these people had just come after my number one.
Right.
And even though like it did get stopped, they were actively like thinking about it, knowing like it was very clear to everyone that like me and Sarah worked together. So that it wasn't like they were just tossing it out there like, oh, maybe. It was like they were genuinely thinking of like, oh, like let's screw over Nick. And then got really upset when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do something because I need to like make sure I'm safe in the future. So yeah.
Well, also like I want to say the fact that the Operation Force Hibernation plan happened definitely also messed things up, because if that doesn't happen, I mean, like we're looking at what Jesse and Lucy go home at this tribal council, and like you now have Kevin, Jackson, Megan potentially like also on your side. Like I feel like that changes the dynamics like a ton. Like you don't even really necessarily need Bailey to be on your side.
Yeah, exactly. I that was definitely like in my head, it was like weeks away, but I was going to try to like start making relationships with Jackson, Megan, and Kevin there, because I could tell that like I was lower on other people's list. So I was like, I'm going to pull these people in and just like try to make more of an underdog kind of vibe. Lucy saying there really screwed up my plans as well. Like everyone had half their plan screwed up, which screwed up everything.
No one got what they wanted.
Okay, what I don't understand is like why are you not a bear? Because like you go so far, you're like such a like the first season.
No,
like
I was a bear in this.
Or I guess like I don't like I feel like in general like you and Dylan, I just don't think other people saw as like as big of a threat as like Cooper and Leia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you guys are the ones who like went further. It's just weird to me. I don't get like how that happens.
Either won the game or a one vote away.
Right.
I mean, I do think there was a conception that I was a threat. I just don't think I had like, I don't think people saw me with a ton of power yet.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I think there was a sense of like, part of the reasons why I was like trying to align with Sam and Cooper at points throughout the game were because I knew we were going to be targeted.
Right.
Like I knew Cooper would want threats in the game. I knew Sam would want threats in the game because we all were going to be names that were going to be thrown around.
Yeah.
I do think I just got into a position where I was like able to be social because I was so well connected with people that I was able to just like be social and not have to make moves yet. and I think I could have chosen to keep doing that and gone far, but I don't know if it would have gotten me like a good spot. So
no, I do think you did a good job too of like lowering your threat level. Like you came into the season as like, you had ran the 2.5 and 4.5 games. Like everyone knew Nick. I mean, you've been around for production. Everyone knew you. Everyone knew you were one vote away from winning season 2. Like I feel like you came in with like everyone was like Nick is an insanely good Survivor player, and you had that reputation. But like you didn't necessarily. I mean, this is something that I wasn't good at doing in the pre-merge. Was you were
terrible.
I was terrible at keeping the target off of my back. I always had the target, and I feel like you were able to like just stay more under the radar, but not in a way to where people were like, "Oh, Nick's a goat," or Nick doesn't have connections.
Right.
You had connections. You were literally the deciding, vote at a few tribal councils, but like you didn't really have like the big target on your back either.
Yeah. I think it is just like I was just being social with people at that point, and I wasn't because I was number 3 on people's list. I don't think anyone really saw me as like a big group with anyone except for Sarah. So I came off of like working with everyone while working with no one at the same time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Nick of all
like,
trades, master of none.
Well, that is a thing. Like you literally went after. You voted for basically like Aaron and then Lucy and Jesse, which was like literally taking one person from 3 different like of those groups you mapped out, like in basically 2 tribal councils. So it's like it makes sense. Like you're like you don't want any one group to be too powerful, but then it's like you also were like, well, which group is like my group though? Because like I want my group to be powerful, but I don't know. It's interesting.
It was a tricky spot, and I do think that is partially where I messed up. Is I should have just been like picked one or the other, but it's also so hard to just like I think I was truly loyal to Odawa, but it was just like hard to be loyal to Odawa while they're actively like trying to target Sarah, and then trying
they were Odawa if they were trying to get rid of Sarah.
Exactly, and then while they're targeting Sarah, like they're also trying to save people who I have 0 relationship with. Like the Sangria people, which is really unfortunate. The Sangria tribe, I pretty much had no relationship with except for Bree. Bree is the only person, Bree and maybe Kevin are the only 2 people on Sangria, the original Sangria tribe that I had any connection with. So like, I didn't end up swapping with any of them really until the Jesse vote. And by that point, it was like, everyone had their alliances. And I was like, I have to be careful of all those people because those are the only ones I don't have any connections with, but everyone else somehow did. So
and plus Bree's like blowing you off for BTS.
I know.
I was dying. That's the most Bree thing. And like her posters were killing me too. The Big Time Rush poster.
God.
I think all the BTS stands are gonna like come find you now for making fun of her for that. So you're gonna get some hate mail.
Well, he deserves to be made fun of. I'm not saying anything bad about BTS or anything like that, but she could have just had a meeting with me at any point. That's on her. Her BTS stand card is just so real that there is no other way. You have to work around BTS even if you don't pay attention to BTS. True.
It's funny because when you said that story, I was like, I feel like I just saw her at like a BTS concert like the other month.
Oh, I believe
it. It seemed like a recent story. I was like, she has not changed.
No, not at all.
You see, like you need to be higher on Bree's list, like above BTS. You know,
like
maybe number 2 or number 3.
Like I'll go through Bree's list right now. It's Jin, Suga, J-Hope, RM, Jimin, V, Jungkook. That's her list.
Number 8 is Leia. Number 9 is Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
That's too funny.
Yeah. I do wish me and Bree got on a better page at some point this game. I think me and her came into this game just feeling so like close. Like we're just so good as friends that we just kind of took it for granted. And then at some point we were like, oh, we're on like separate sides, but we won't like actively try to target each other, I guess. Like, he was obviously trying to vote out Sarah there, but like just like, okay, well, I don't have other options. So
I wish we got to see y'all work together more. I feel like you guys would have been a power duo.
did you meet the Aaron week? Because you're both on that tribe.
Yeah, we were talking. I just think like we didn't solidify. Like we were just so casual about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like in passing.
In
Yeah,
passing.
that's exactly what it felt like. It was like me and Bree were just knew so well that we were going to work with each other and like talking about it that nothing really like solidified because we'd meet up, be friends, and then be like, well, what do we want to do now? And then we'd just be like, haha, and then move on.
Yeah.
We didn't form a real like big game bond because we just were so good of friends that like that surpassed.
Right.
We were too focused on that.
You like forgot you were playing the game when you were hanging out.
Exactly.
Just chilling.
That's the thing with Bree is like she's very like I feel like when you have a conversation with Bree in the game, like it just feels like you're just like chilling. Like it's like you're talking Survivor, but mostly you're just like vibing, you know, like and everyone loves Bree because of it. I don't know. This way, even like in that meeting, I think you saw like me and Bree in this episode, we're basically like all we're doing is just like shitting on Bailey. Like I guess we're talking about the game, but like it seems like that's mostly what we're doing is just like Bree is just very, very easy to talk to.
Yeah, social queen.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think that's how a lot of people win Survivor Michigan is like, you know, just I feel like that's the tip that like Mallory or somebody said, like, you know, you just like spend the first 20 minutes just talking social life with people and then go into it. And that's, I think, how Dale won too, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm curious about is like coming into the merge here. I mean, you just talked about like you really wanted to work with Bree. At this point, maybe me and you are on probably more shaky grounds than we were previously, where we were very tight and then maybe not so tight. But you know, you and Adam, we saw also in this episode, you know, you had to spend a lot of time bonding over that idol clue. Like, do you think that there's a scenario where like you would have been willing to like flip and work with kind of that bottom group of like me, Bree, Adam, and Leia? Or do you think that, you know, you would prefer to vote off a few of us first before flipping?
I think what makes it hard is Leia in that sense. Because I have no connection with Leia, and I don't know, like I don't, you know how Jackson and Leia had their thing where like they're just very different players. I think that's kind of how I felt when I was talking to Leia, is that I was just like I didn't know how to engage with her. So it would have been hard, but I think there is a scenario where that could happen. It's just like I think you at that point were upset with me, and so with this 8 group that just had formed, I was like, well, you're upset with me. I can't really work with Leia. Like, let me try to take that out first, and then see where I go. Because I do think like I was still definitely trying to like keep Bree close, but like we obviously weren't sharing enough information. And then like I was actively trying to build a relationship with Adam at that point. And you guys see the idol hunt, and during the idol hunt, I'm thinking like, oh, this is an alliance that's going to like become something. And I think throughout the week I did try to like hint at him, being like, hey, I know your name's out there, but like you're not the target. But I don't know if I made it explicit enough that I'm like actively trying to work with him. But in my head, it was like, I'm going to try to keep you here and then flip to you later. Like I wanted Bree and Adam in order to do that.
No, that makes sense. Like I feel like it does sound like the best move would have been getting me out, getting Leia out. Now you have like Adam and Bree who you can like work with, and it sounds like that's basically what Sarah's plan is too. Like when she has that whiteboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Would Adam have been mad at you though for stealing his idol?
The thing is, I don't understand what Adam's plan is there. Like, I have no idea. Like, the fact that he thought he was about to get an idol and just like be able to get it scot-free, even though other people had like scratched out the Apollo thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, how is he gonna say Apollo and no one know about it if I'm out? Like, other people would have known. I have no idea what Adam's doing.
Oh yeah, because like do you think that that's the reason Adam wanted you out? Is like, oh, so that no one will know I have the idol?
Well, that's what I mean, I don't fully know, but that's what the episode came across as. If he votes me out, no one knows he has the idol.
Except for the people that scratched it out.
Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah. But I don't. I don't know. He didn't think like that, I guess. But I also don't understand why he didn't do what I did and just instantly say it. Like I went into that
Right.
game knowing there was at least one person who stressed
Competition.
out, one person who got it with me. Like the only way I get it is if I say it instantly, because other people are going to get it first. So like I thought
No, you did it so well.
Yeah, I really thought all of us
So
would
good.
name it.
Like-
I thought all of it was just going to be a lot. So I don't know. I don't know how I ended up getting it and being the only one to say it right away.
Like this is probably maybe a little too much, but I legitimately think this might be like your best move in all of Survivor is like the Apollo G. Like that's just
So
brilliant. To
I
me.
was like, whoa.
I thought long and hard about
Yeah.
it. I don't
So
know.
great.
How do I
like
get away
so
with it?
much clearer, smoother than the Apollo 13 is the one that blew up. It's not even
Wait,
right.
wasn't this before actual Survivor implemented like have
Yeah,
you
they
heard
stole
the
that from
tale
us.
of the bunny and the whatever?
Mhm.
This was before that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my god, we did it first.
This is twice now where we've done something wild. Like the tie vote was also
Yeah.
before CBS
Mhm.
Survivor.
From Ghost Island, yeah.
Nick is the
Yeah.
game changer, and both
Yeah.
of these things are like Nick things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. They're my story, but CBS
Yeah.
stole it from me.
And
But
CBS
they're also,
Survivor
like,
probably
the
doesn't have
two, like,
0.5 seasons. That's
And also
something
the
that you
two most
invented.
like
That's
sad.
true.
True.
They're both the two like worst things you probably don't want to remember either, though. Like
Yeah, that is fair.
Mhm.
it's tough.
No, but your
But-
face when Adam was saying the story, the Apollo
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So
why
funny.
are you trying to
Do you think he like didn't? I think he didn't think yours would count
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I think there was definitely contention there too, because I remember like I asked the producers before if that would work, and they were like, "We can't really confirm or deny. It just has to be clear." And so I was like, "No, I hope it's fucking clear enough."
Mhm.
But I was also like in my chat being like, "Well, I'm telling you guys now to make it. It's obviously going to be what I'm saying." But I don't know. So it worked out. There was contention on it though, so I guess I do get why he would have done it.
Might as well try.
In that case, like, why not? You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Mhm.
there's even a 10% chance you get it. Might as well say it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so that makes sense. But it's funny, like how Cooper is sitting there, like so confused that, like, because he would probably,
He's
I mean, he
pissed.
didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He was expecting no one else to say it or even know what it was.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he hears it like said twice, and he's just like,
Did y'all think it was Emily B, like just Emily B, who had done that, or did you guys think other people had gotten in on it at that point?
Sam, do you have an answer to that?
to who like scratched it out. I mean, at that point, like I thought it was probably Emily B. That's what I kept saying in the confessionals.
okay.
Like, oh, like Emily B has an idol clue a day early, but she's claiming like, oh, I didn't scratch it out. I'm like, then who did? But I also kind of figured that the clue had been spread around and it could have been like a number of people.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't remember what I thought at that time.
Okay.
I don't remember if people were telling me like they searched with her.
Right.
So I eventually found that out, but I don't know
Yeah.
if we found that out like on jury or
Right.
found that out. So I don't.
I
really-
just assumed she would tell people, like basically, because people share idol clues a lot in all stars. It's like at least like in the pre-merge, it seemed pretty common for people to share clues. So like, I just like, I think in the episode I was like, oh, like Emily has it, which means she's gonna tell Bailey, and then like Bailey's gonna tell everybody else. Bailey didn't tell everybody else, so give her credit, but
Yeah.
like Bailey did know. So
Yeah.
And also, I think you probably put forth one of like the most effort towards an idol, I think, so far in Survivor
Mhm.
Michigan in terms of like hours just on
Oh my
literally
God.
just doing that.
That was all night. I
Oh my
probably went home around like 2 a.m. that night. Cause like it was late when the idol clue got released, I think. And then it took a long time because of, you know how like Emily went in one spot and it wasn't
Mhm.
there. We all did
Yeah.
not. And then eventually we found it. Then I like got really mad, yelled at the producers for letting them scratch out the clue.
Yeah. yeah. Do you think that was fair that they allowed that?
No, but it made for good TV and I was able to like fix
Mhm.
it. So
Yeah.
like at least there was an out. If there was no out, I probably would still be mad about it to this day. But because there
Mhm.
was an out and I figured it out, I'm not as
Yeah.
mad.
I
But
think
yeah,
I don't think if like you can't complain about it, maybe other people can. I think you.
Yeah,
you got the idol.
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I was mad at the time because I was like, well, if they can't move it, like you guys are just letting them scratch it out, that means they could have like burned it and left it in the book. Like
Just the ashes.
I know.
Yeah. I
It
was
kind
like,
of goes against the spirit of the rule. Like, oh yeah, you
Exactly.
can. But I mean, I mean, think about it though. Like, what would have happened if like all 12 people knew to save Apollo?
oh,
That would have been so funny.
it would have been way too messy. It would have been bad. And I guarantee every single person would have found it.
Yeah.
If we did
Well, I
that.
think everybody did find it. They just like, I mean, I pretty
Yeah.
much everyone's like, oh, like it's blacked out. I guess like we
Mhm.
can't do anything.
Exactly. So
It was pretty easy to find the next thing after that. So like it wasn't like I almost kind of wish there was like 5 more parts to it as a viewer, not as like
5 more parts to an idol. That'd be
Oh
crazy.
my god.
Just
Yeah.
like you find
It
an
seemed it was
idol,
too
you find
easy.
another,
Yeah.
like a little idol scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Didn't Jackson have to do that in season 4? I feel like he did.
yeah, he did. He
Mhm.
did.
Yeah.
It wasn't
All
an
that.
idol. I think it was an advantage, but
Yeah, for his vote
definitely,
steal.
Yeah.
yeah.
For some reason, I feel like Tom would have been good at getting rid of the Sharpie on the idol.
Yeah,
idol
lemon
clue.
juice.
I feel like
You
this
think
is
lemon
right
juice
up his
will work?
alley.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know what's really funny about it is me and Adam were doing that together, and so we went to 7-Eleven to get like nail polish remover and everything. And I ended up paying for it or whatever. So we do this whole thing. I think I'm in a good alliance, and then I get voted out. And so eventually I just Venmo request.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and he paid up. He paid up. He was like, "That's fair." He was like, "That's fair. You can I took you out after all of that. I'll pay you back."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, getting into this episode, like, what other thoughts do you have watching this episode back?
Well, I don't know if I have like crazy thoughts, but I do have like, it's wild to realize. Like, I don't think I understood how good my reads of the game were until this all happened, and everyone was like, "Whoa, you were on track even though you had no real information." And I was like, for me, it just felt like it came naturally, but it was just like I never realized that like my reads and my gut instinct was so spot on with it.
Right. Wait, in the challenge, did you play for immunity or the other one? Immunity, right?
At that point, I don't think I didn't feel like I was in danger then. At that point, there wasn't like a lot of flipping. I was playing more so to beat Sam, to be honest. I remember Sam being in the final 2 and me being nervous that Sam was going to win it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people on that crowd watching.
I mean,
props to Megan. Megan was like an absolute unit during that challenge.
Oh,
like never once wavered. I was watching it, I was like, why wasn't I wearing shoes? Like I feel like that's a bad idea for doing wall sits. Like you kind of want some traction.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like this episode's pretty different if you win this challenge, Sam. You know,
that's true.
Like I wonder, like, how does it all play out?
Well,
Because
Adam still is going to be trying extremely. He's even more hard now to save himself, and still goes to Bailey with the same plan. But,
but I don't know if we go with the same plan.
Like, what do you think that you would have done?
Well, it would have. The only way it would have worked is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. Because if you won immunity, votes would have had to go on Adam because I wasn't going to agree to put votes on Bree. People weren't going to agree to put votes on Leia. So all the votes would have either had to go to Adam. And I don't know if that would have been like a simple idea, but I don't know if it would have actually gone through because Adam felt more like a number for other people in the future.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that people would have been willing to split votes onto like Leia, for example?
No chance.
At least like maybe not Cooper and Bailey. Because I don't know.
Cooper, Bailey, Emily, and B would have never done.
Oh, Emily. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember going into that week, for me, I was like constantly thinking about how I could get rid of Leia or weaken her. So I went into it being like, how do I set this up so in a couple votes I can get rid of Leia? Because I knew I couldn't get it then. And I even remember like my first conversation with Megan, I was like, she has immunity, and I was like trying to like goad her into being the one to like spread names and start talking about like potentially getting out Leia because I wanted her to do it while she was safe because I couldn't do it. I was possibly able to go home. So
that's true.
But I don't think we would have been able to get the votes to do that.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a lot messier, but I have no idea how it would have gone down.
I don't know. I mean, I know that like me and Adam definitely like discussed like what if we go to Nick and Sarah instead. Like I think we at that time preferred to work with you guys over Cooper and Bailey, but we also were concerned like, well, what if they don't believe us? What if they throw us under the bus? Because once like we saw this crack and like had basically evidence that like, all right, Bailey, Cooper, Emily want to flip, like we're like, we still would kind of rather work with Nick and Sarah. And but like also like, is that even possible? Is that risky to do? You know, it's
Dude, I think if you guys came with like some sort of evidence, I think it would have worked. Or just like some sort of way to convince us. I think if you go to Sarah first specifically, yeah, Sarah's like, oh yeah, I'm on board. And then I would probably follow suit. But I think if you went to me first without like any real solid foundation, it might have been harder.
Yeah. Well, tough thing too is like where do we get our numbers? Like who do we vote for together? Because you know, like Leia is also that's a tricky thing. You and Leia were not necessarily on the same page.
Yeah.
Like how could we get a majority of people where we could agree on one person? You know?
Yeah, I mean, we probably could have gotten. It depends. It depends on what you guys would have said to me. Because if you guys showed me that Cooper and Bailey were actively like trying to get rid of me or Sarah and blindside me, I would have been like, that's fair. Now they're on the table. But if I didn't fully believe it off the top of my head, I don't know if I would have gone for that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we do some Discord questions, Jack?
Yeah, sure. From all of our fans over on the Survivor Michigan Reddit Discord. First question is from somebody named T18. They want to know when you will accept their Instagram follow request.
I don't know if that will be happening. As much as I've heard about it and know about it, I don't think it'll be happening. I have too many thirst traps. That Instagram is like both a real Instagram and a Finsta, so I can only add people who like I know as like an acquaintance or know really well. Nothing in between and nothing outside of that. If they're like a family friend, they're not being added. Never being added.
You need to make it higher on Nick's list.
Yeah. Higher on Nick's list.
You have to be up there.
All right, some real questions. So going back to the Jesse Jackson boot now, this is from Irish Lion 17. So they want to know, in hindsight of how quick Cooper turned on you, do you regret not taking advantage of going for Cooper on the revote along with maybe Sarah to have the majority with Bree and Lucy? So I mean, it's a lot to process like at that time, you know, because you didn't really know about the whole Cooper plan at all. But like, was there any chance of that happening?
In the moment, there definitely was no chance of that happening. I remember Sarah looked at me and I like just instantly shook my head. I think the only way it happens in the moment is if we got a longer time to talk and Bree made it clear to Sarah and all of that. But even then, I think I probably would have pushed against it and actively would have saved Cooper. But yeah, looking at it now after seeing him like so ready to blindside me, I think it probably would have been a better move for me. I don't know. I think at that time I was thinking along the lines of Cooper was going to try to keep threats in, and I knew that I was close to him and a threat. So I thought I would be safe in his eyes. And I actually still question whether or not this move of taking me out over Sarah was better for him. I don't know about the flipping one, but I think actually him saving me over Sarah in the situation, which he didn't do. He wanted Sarah out over me, or he wanted me out over Sarah. He thought I was a bigger threat than Sarah. I think that probably was the wrong read for him, because I think if Sarah goes here, I probably have to like scramble back to him, and I have a really good connection with him. And Sarah's out here thinking about how she wants to take out Cooper the whole time, but I'm sitting here trying to work with him actively. So I don't know if that was the best move for him, but I also think like, I don't know. I think it probably would have been a better idea for me to blindside him, but with all the information I had at that time, it did not even cross my mind to take out Cooper.
Definitely a hindsight is 2020.
Yeah. That's a time travel move, you know. That you can do.
Yeah.
See, so another one from Irish Lion. We've talked about this a little bit, just kind of about you two's relationship in the game. So like, do you think that you put too much stock in your relationship with Sam? Given how you went out of your way to protect Sam when Aaron left, we kind of talked about that a lot. But do you think there's anything more you could have done to like salvage that relationship? Like,
Yeah, I definitely think I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sam got annoyed with me, and I was like, well, if Sam's annoyed with me, then he's not working with me, so I guess Sam can go next. And it was like, I think before that, it was like the 8 was formed, and I was like kind of on the fence about it, but then I just felt like Sam was mad, and so I was like, okay, well then the 8 is good, then I'm fine.
Yeah.
Then Sam will be the target, whatever. And I think I even have a confessional where I was like, yeah, Sam's dead to me now. I was like,
Yeah.
me and Sam were close, but now he's dead to me because he's mad. And it was just like I don't even really fully understand how it happened so quickly because
I don't know. It goes both ways, you know, like because like I watching this back, I was like, why am I so like annoyed with Nick in this episode? Like I'm like writing your name down and like saying like I was like, oh, I'll make you lose twice, blah, blah, blah. I was like, why was I pissed off at Nick? We didn't really have that much against each other. I mean, I guess I knew you were trying to vote me off, but like, you know, I also definitely, I think, same similar thing. Like our relationship was very good. Like the Lucy thing happened, but like I think I also just like let it slip. I feel like if we would have had just like one really genuine conversation, we probably would have gotten the same page. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't do that either.
Yeah, I think that's just what it was. It was literally like, even watching it back, I had forgotten how close me and Sam were, but watching the Aaron episode back, I was like, no, me and Sam were like tight. Like at that point, Sam was like near the top of my list.
Oh, same. Yeah, you were too.
Yeah. And that's wild to me because I did go into it being like, I like Sam, but I also know he's talking to everyone. But at that point, I was only really talking to Sam cross tribal, and I made a really, really good connection with him. And I felt like no one saw us working together. No one.
Exactly.
So I was
that's
like,
what we talked about a lot. Like no one would have ever expected our duo, which is like also like it felt like I feel like we saw the Dylan Devin thing. We were like, that's such a good idea to have like that unlikely alliance. Like we were sharing a lot of information with each other too.
Yeah. We were definitely like so close. And then the Lucy thing happened and we just were like, okay, done.
Yeah.
We just both like gave it up because I was like, I think our allies were just so separated that it was just really hard. Because like I think by the time we finally did have a conversation after Lucy, it was like your name was already on the chopping block. So it was like, I'm not going to tell you that. So it was just like, okay, I guess we're like over it.
I was tossing out Kevin to you, I remember, and it like was a very, I think at that time I did actually want Kevin to go, but it felt like a very bullshit conversation.
Yeah.
I think you said like things are very up in the air. And then like at tribal council, I was kind of like being like, I think I mentioned that. I was like, I could tell that like, cause I knew that like I was on the bottom at that point because Bailey had like basically told me. And then I was like, oh, should we maybe vote off Kevin? Like you were willing to play with that. And you're like, I don't know, like maybe. I was like, oh,
it was definitely, I remember going into that being like, this is a bullshit conversation.
Yeah. You can kind of tell, like, I think which conversations are like real ones, and which ones aren't, you know?
Yeah. I feel like you don't have to be the most perceptive. You don't have to be Professor Nick to know which ones are the bullshit conversations, you know?
Yeah. That one definitely was one of those ones. And we just didn't really align. So
I did notice, it seems like everyone in this episode is talking about how perceptive you are.
Yeah. Well, also a good thing to note is this vote happened right after the Bree vote from season 2 aired. So right after, or maybe not the Bree vote, but maybe the Abby one. It was the one where I like started flipping out, and you guys were like, "Oh wow, Nick is perceptive and making moves and all." Like so I do think that was on people's minds. I don't know how much it influenced things, but it definitely was like you guys. So many people had just saw me get blindsided and then power through in the next episode, and everyone just saw that. So they were like, when you guys were out there voting, I'm sure it influenced it a little bit of being like, oh, well, if we blindside Nick by taking out Sarah, he's just going to do the exact same thing again.
I was terrified of that. I mean, I was like, I saw that same thing happen, and then you outlasted me, and I was like, it's going to happen again. Like, I just know it. Like, Nick will find a way off the bottom. That's what I was afraid of, like, because I had experienced it.
Yeah, maybe that's what kind of brought up some of those old emotions in Sam, you know? to have that spicy, vote read.
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty spicy, Sam.
It was pretty spicy, and I'll let me be on the record for saying that, it's not like my one vote controlled who won or lost that game, but it's definitely not the case. But I definitely cringed myself a little bit at that one. I was like, oh, I feel bad for that. Poor Nick, because that's a tough ending. How it all played out.
Yeah, it's all for good TV.
That's also true. You at the voting booth, like you just say whatever wild shit comes to your head.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
Same.
See it. That might be about it for questions so far. Discord.
Well, I think I also saw a little bit in the after show that I kind of want to speak on. I saw 10 minutes before. They were talking about what happened at Tribal and whether or not that influenced me. And I do think I want to talk a little bit more about what I was feeling going into that vote.
Definitely.
And Sarah, I don't know if you will remember this, but it was like I was talking a lot about what I was going to do if I get this idol in my producer chat. I spent like hours just trying to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I went into Tribal, I think, with the plan of at the very very least, going up, getting the idol, going up there and just like seeing what people's reactions are and trying to gauge that. Because if I saw people's reactions and they were like upset, then I was going to play it for myself. And then if not, I might save it for the next week because I knew something was happening. There was just no way Sam was just having bullshit conversations with me if he thought he was going home. There's no way that's happening. And the vibes were just off with everyone else. So I went into that being like, something's happening. I just don't know if it's me or Sarah.
Right.
Your sixth sense, like you just knew. Like no one had
It was just there. Like I even went to Tribal and I was like calling Bailey on my walk to Tribal because I was like, Bailey is the most emotional and the closest one I'm to. So like maybe if I call her and start freaking out, she will like spill a little bit and tell me right away. And she spilled everything to everyone this entire week, but not to me.
She finally learned how to.
One time she kept her lips closed. But I did go in there like trying to get Bailey just to like maybe say like, oh yeah, sorry, like something. Because even if she wasn't saying specifically she was voting for me, but like saying that something was happening, I was just trying to get some information. Mm-hmm. But I went into Tribal like knowing something was going wrong and trying to get the idol. But I don't think I really even like focused much on the fighting. I forgot most of the fighting even happened. I was so in my head at that point that I was just trying to figure out like, am I playing it for myself or am I saving it for the next week?
Right.
And I think what ended up happening is I just had so many thoughts that I didn't make a decision. I sat there waiting while Brady was like, oh, if anyone has the idol, like play it now. Sam's sitting next to me. He's huffing and puffing. He had to blow up this Tribal. You had a you had one of Jackson's fake idol necklaces on. And so after all the dramatics, I was just like, okay, well, there's going to be a dramatic thing that Sam does. Let me wait for Sam. And then I'll like do my thing or like figure it out. And I was like, still just like in my head thinking about it. And so I just look over and I'm like waiting for Sam. And then Brady starts reading the votes. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm not using it this week. Like I just completely blanked and choked, and then as soon as I saw my name, I was like, I know it's me. You saw me like turn my head because everybody.
You were like climbing down.
Oh, no, that was so brutal. Like when you put your head against like the pole, and I felt so sad for you.
Yeah.
Sam, you psyched him out. I didn't even realize.
Not even on purpose. With the idol. I mean, I just wore that because me and Adam wore that to like a bunch of Tribals in a row. Our original plan was to like the Tribal where we were voting for splitting votes on Jackson and Aaron. We were actually going to both go up and like play our fake idols. Like be like, oh, this is an idol. We thought it'd be funny to play like Jackson's idols, and then like Jackson had to play his real idol. But then we were like, all right, that's actually like too much of a dick move. Like we're not going to do that. So we just like wore them and then didn't play them. So then we just like kept wearing them to Tribals. So then we wore them to this one, and it just like was completely by random chance that it impacted anything else. Definitely not like a, big brain play to psych Nick out. Like, no, like that wasn't It was our bad acting that was supposed to do that, which didn't
Wait,
really factor in.
it didn't. The one thing you didn't think about, it's the one thing
Yeah.
that would end up affecting it. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. But it's
Sam,
also
I feel
true.
like
yeah.
I feel like Sam's been getting so lucky on this season. Like there's
Yeah.
so many things that like could have gone wrong for you, Sam, up to this
All
point.
luck.
I will
No,
say
it's
to be
definitely not
fair,
all luck, but like
yeah.
you
I will
definitely
say-
getting lucky.
Yeah, I also will say, to be fair, I don't know if I had a full decision of what I was doing. I was just waiting for Sam to do something first, because I thought what you said you were going to do with Jackson, I thought that's what you were about to do here, and be like, oh, I'm going home, I'm playing an idol, and then I was going to actually play or do something with mine.
Play a real idol and idol me out.
Yeah, I thought that's exactly what was going to happen, and I was like, fuck.
So maybe I mean, that's the thing about the game, and I feel like I've realized this because I feel like it's something that was discussed even like during season 2 is like luck is definitely involved. Like there's a lot of luck involved in the game, but it's never, you can't ever really attribute anything to like all luck or all skill. Like it's always like a combination of like a ton of factors that affect other things in the future. And sometimes this thing happens to go this way and this thing goes this other way. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. That was an instance though of definitely like I was benefited by something that, you know, was basically out of my control, you know, whether Nick plays his idol. But man, like as much as I'm glad that didn't happen because it would have gotten me out, like it's tough that that's the way that it happened. In a way it feels like almost, I think Jack, you were saying like that it feels almost poetic.
Oh, like you literally could not have written it better for like, you know, Nick being the most perceptive person like through both of his seasons. I feel like with yours, I don't know, I'm talking about you in the third person, but like through both of your seasons, and then like, and especially like, I mean, I feel like probably, you know, the editing is hampering it on even more this episode, obviously, but it's like, it's not, but it's very true is that how perceptive you've been this entire time. And then until the very last moment when you're not perceptive enough, like you can't write a better story than that.
Crazy. Yeah.
But it's also tragic. It feels like, I think I saw a comment that said this is like the most tragic boot that of the season after the will vote, and I feel like I would definitely agree with that. Like it's a very like heart-wrenching thing to watch.
It's like a Greek tragedy. It's like your lover being turned into a tree or something, you know.
It is cool to have an iconic moment like that though, because I did leave that being like, I was upset obviously, but I also left it and started talking to Ian right after, and I was like, literally, you don't even have to fake out any votes. It's literally, do I play the idol? Do I not? I have the like confessionals. I have all of the thoughts. Like it's all there. It's just, is it the idol or is it not? Like what happened? And that's the whole level of the episode.
Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're the first person in Survivor Michigan to find an idol in 2 different seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You also, I don't know what
That's
stat
pretty
this
impressive.
is, but I think you get 2 flashback tribals. Like in one where like it's flashback to Mallory being loyal to you, and then the flashback to like you being like perceptive and whether or not you're gonna play the idol. Which like the flashbacks are always like really iconic tribals. So
yeah,
that's true. Wow. Oh, the final 4 season 2. That was crazy.
That was a flashback one.
Was very iconic tribal. Yeah. Man.
Wow. I think we covered everything.
Yeah. This has been really fun.
Yeah, this has been this one has flowed.
It really has.
Really well.
I came in, I was like, I've been thinking all season about how I'm gonna talk about things.
Prepared.
I know what I want. I know what I need to explain.
Anything else on your list that you want to?
I do want to. I mean, this one I don't really know how to transition. This one doesn't pertain to my game at all. But I do think this, for the viewers, I feel like it's wild to see their reactions to it. But I do want to point out that, like, for me, as someone who knows Ian, I think people need to like take a second to understand that Ian's editing this season to be a character focused game rather than a narrative focused game, where in regular CBS Survivor, there's like a very clear like, oh, this is how the winner one, and it's
Right.
like very focused on that. Whereas this one, I think all of us are getting our send off. This is our revenge tour, or more so our
Mhm.
victory tour. It's all of us have just done this. We've put so much time into this thing that we all love, and Ian's just trying to give everyone their moment, give everyone their
Yeah.
story, even if it's like, even if it ends up making your faves go home early, like he's just trying to give everyone edit, because there is a timeline, or there is an edit that probably exists where like Aaron goes home being the villain instead of like being an underdog, or
And these are 40-minute episodes. You don't know, you
Yeah.
know, really everything that's happening. Yeah.
exactly. Like there's definitely ways, like the whole Jackson and Megan thing coming out would have gotten swept under the rug. And while like it personally didn't affect my game that much, it's still like it easily could have been like much more hidden. And I think it's just Ian's giving everyone their time of day, even if it's like, even if it leads to a less narrative satisfying like ending. I think everyone is supposed to have their moment and shine. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and that's probably also why the episodes are a bit longer, just because like he doesn't want to give anyone a purple edit.
Yeah.
Like he kind of wants like everyone to like kind of have their storyline in there. So sometimes it has to be a little longer.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's enough content for us to have an hour interview with every single person on the season and have like a lot of things to talk about, which like is cool. I mean, CBS, there's like probably some second or third boots where you're like who's that person again? Like, what are we talk about?
Yeah. Or even like season 1 and season 2 of Survivor Michigan and stuff, like, you know, before this style of editing, I feel like really took over, you know.
That's true.
Except for AJ. We could have talked with AJ for like 6 hours.
Yeah. I talked with AJ for 6 hours yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
As you should. It's so wild to think that I've actually been in Chidi's apartment.
Wow.
True.
We always talk about how like these people do not like remember who we are.
No,
but,
probably
like,
not at all.
We talk about them so much.
I know. I mean, it's like AJ actually has like a burner account. It's like everything.
Yeah. AJ is T18, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is AJ.
So he was 18th place, tied for 18th, and I don't know.
Something like that.
We'll figure that out.
Anything else, Nick, that's been in your mind for the season that you want to put out there?
I don't think so. I think I'm satisfied with how everything ended up. I do remember, like, even after this, like, as much as I was sad, I think it was a blessing in disguise, because I had to go home and help my mom because she had just gotten like treatments for cancer. So it actually ended up being a really good thing for me, because I think if I was trying to play while helping her, it would have been really hard. So ends up as tragic as it is, everyone can be happy that I was able to go deal with real life stuff, and she's now. So
that's good.
Yeah,
even Lucy, king and queen of the jury. It is kind of like we kind of love seeing the two of you together there.
That's poetic too.
Back to
you
back.
Know? Yeah,
it is very poetic.
First two, also like season 2, like every single person made it to the jury / merge phase.
Wow, you're right. Is season 2 the dominant season so far?
Oh yeah,
I think it is. Yeah, because season 3 kind of got screwed a little bit.
Season 3, the only of all the people that played twice, I want to say that. Only Emily B made the merge both times. I think everybody else didn't.
Wow,
season 2, every single person made the merge twice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, Nick, we also share where me and you are the returnee season somewhat merge boots. So you know.
Oh yeah,
true.
Big names gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, it was great having you.
Great talking.
Wait, one last thing, sorry. So this came up earlier in the season. Sam, who would deserve to win season 2, Mallory or Nick? Just kidding.
I think both of them. Both of them deserve to win the season.
We should have spread the win. Lucy shouldn't have gotten a vote.
Yeah.
No, honestly, it's Lucy. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
No, but yeah, seriously, thank you so much, Nick. This has been awesome, and thanks for everything you've done for Survivor Michigan over the last however many years, of all the 0.5 seasons and everything. It's been great. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys.